We begin a new Maimer, Daf Kufchov Beis. It's a very famous Maimer because this is the Maimer that the Rebbe said in 1953 when Stalin died, Purim. This is also the Maimer that Rebbe Rashab said when the Tsar fell. It's a very special Maimer, so let's learn it and let's hope that in merit of this Maimer, all the negative things will fall. The Maimer begins on a pasuk in the Magilla. It says, "Al Kain korela yom ela Purim, al shem apur hu ageru lifneham." Asks the Alter Rebbe, we have to understand why are these days called Purim? Because of the Raffle. Why should the Raffle be important here? It's a minute detail. The main thing is the Nes, Yidden's life was saved. What's Negea so much this prat that he made a Raffle that the whole Yom Tov is called Purim? What did Hova want to accomplish? So it says, Aposek, she's going Mamole, Kvacharisi David, Bilo Marosha said. Because he says, what does it mean? That he's the source of all the Shiva Umeis, which are called the Zayin Poris Harois, the lean cows that Paris saw in his dream, that are connected with Kanani, Chiti, and Mendy, the seven inhabitants of the land of Israel that we have to chase out. So Amalek is called Reishis Goyim because he's higher, is the source of all the midas. To understand this, we have to understand what it says in Novi Zcharia. Novi says, okay, we'll go back. Says, I saw a Magilla. The Magilla was flying. And the Gemara says in native about this Magilla that it was written Ponim ve'ocher, that the Theta has Pnimius and Chitzenius at Theta. That the Theta has the levels, because it says Cholchmas Odom Toir Ponov. When a person is brilliant, his face shines. And we know that Adam is what it says in the Novi Yecheskel. We're not talking about just regular human being. We're even talking about Adam and the Musakisit Muskamari Adam. So by the Rebishter, how could we say that the Chochmah shines his face? That Eibishter doesn't have a body, and we know Kileyodam Huli Inochim. So what does it mean? There's a Medrash Rabbah, Pasha Bereshis, 7 things that are before the creation. Among them are Theta, Tshuva, the Beis Hamikdash, etc. But Yidden are greater than all of them. Jumped. Yidden are greater from all these 7 things. What comes first is Klal Yisrael. Like it says, Bereshis Bishul Yisrael Shenikru Reshis, because the world was created for Klal Yisrael. That's why that we say about Klal Yisrael, all of the Machshava, they're in the highest level of Machshava. There is Dibur, there is Machshava, and Yidden are in Machshava the highest. Because say Baruch Hu is higher than say the Ishtal Shalos, And the whole say that Ishtalshus is kulei kamei kilo mamish chshiva. It has no value, no significance. So really, there should not be any urge and shefa in this world, but because you have Klal Yisrael, they are connected with all of Machshava, and they come down in this world. So today, Vishter comes down to a level of Adam to have a relationship with the world, which Adam is the source of Neshamas Yisrael, the way it's in Atzilus. So he says that this level of Adam, the Chochmah lights up its face. Because Theta is one of the 7 things that are before creation, and they're called Shashuim. They're God's delight, like it says, a pasuk in Mishlei Misachekes Lefanav V'choleis, just like a person. When he comes up with a new idea, So'avupono, you see light on him. He enjoys the new idea he came up with, like it says in the Gemara by Rabbi. So'avupono. His face was shining when he found a new brisa. The same thing is by godliness. In this level of Chochmilo, there's great pleasure in the Adam Ha'elyon from the Chochmas HaTorah. Like we know, every portion in Theta has a great Chochmah. But it comes here down to something physically, but really it shows on great immense Chochmah. Like we learned lately, the Parsha of Cheshim Ve'efed that's made from the diamonds, Oidem Tada. There is great wisdom to it, and Hashem delights in His pleasure of the Torah. And it's tremendous, tremendous pleasure. And this Chochmas HaTorah is connected with Chochmas Atzilus, and it comes down into our world. It should be Chochmas Adam Toir Pono, that this light comes to us, not to the people that serve idols like Moshe begged by Hashem, that this high level of Torah should come down just for Klal Yisrael. And this is what it says, Misachek is b'tevel arts in the pasuk in Mishlei mentioned before, because first it was Chochmas Adam Toir Pono, it was for the Rebishter. But then this Chochmah came down in physical halachas that we could understand, and it comes till Tevel Artsei, come to us human beings that we could understand and comprehend this immense level of Chochmah, that without it being enclosed in all these misholim, in all these physical halachas, we could have no way of understanding it. And the Maimer says, like that we see by Shlomo HaMelech, he spoke 3,000 misholim. What was the greatness of Shlomo HaMelech, that he could speak 3,000 parables? That's the greatness of Shlomo. Shlomo was on such a high level, and the only way from his Chochmas HaTorah could come down in a way that regular humans can understand, that had to go through 3,000 levels. When the Chochmah has to come down in this world, it could not come down without a moshel. It goes down 3,000 moshel. This is because the greatness of the Theta that we say Chochmas Adam, till it comes in our world, you need Gimal of moshel. This is also we say in davening every day. That these halichos are ways that Chochmas HaTorah comes down here, and that's why it's called halichos. Like it says, Apostle halichos Eli Malki Vakedesh, that these halachas bring this infinite light, the essence of the pleasure and the lux of the Eibishter into this world. This is also whenever we do a mitzvah, we say, Asher Kiddusho, no b'mitzvah. God made us holy, and we're happy to do this great mitzvah because we know that this mitzvah is connected to the essence of the Eibishter, and it's made Reiv Kel. It's more than the pleasure in Elam Haba because it's talking about such a high level. And Elam Haba is a pleasure that the neshamas have. So if they could understand it, that means it's not the essence. And this is what it says in the pasuk in Bereshis. V'nor yitzim mi'edin lahashkis esagon. That there is a river going out from Eden to give water to the Gan Eden. So if you just look at that pasuk, you see that Gan is lower than Eden, and Gan is a garden that gets a river from Eden. Because by Eden it said itself, it says a pasuk in Yeshaya, Ayin Leiros, and no one could see it. Because that's the pleasure of Torah, that's the Shashum, the delight of the Eibishter. And from Eden has to go on a river. Lahashkis Gon doesn't only mean Gan Eden, also means Gon. Gon is Gematria 53 to 53 parshas of Theta. That with the neshamas enjoy in Gan Eden, everyone on their level after their refinement in Gehenna. So what he does, he gets to enjoy a nor from Eden, a river from Eden. But the Theta mitzvah, that's Eden, is even greater than Elam Haba, because Elam Haba is only a ray of Eden that comes in the garden. So that's why it says you have to be happy when you do a mitzvah. Yeser Merev Kel, because it's more than an Eden. This is what it says. You have to be very happy when you do a mitzvah because it's greater Merev Kel than Elam Haba. That's Pshat in Pirkei Avos. Pirkei Avos says that one moment of tshuva and ma'asim tevim in this world is greater than the whole Elam Haba. In the same Mishnah, if you look in Pirkei Avos, the Alter Rebbe says just the opposite. The Alter Rebbe says that one moment of pleasure of the world to come is more than our world. You put together all the 6,000 years of creation and you create the greatest pleasures. They don't come to 1 minute of Gan Eden. Gan Eden is greater. Nevertheless, one moment in this world is greater than the entire Gan Eden. How could these two contradictory statements be true? Because in pleasure, Gan Eden is greater. But in the essence of Hashem, we take him dafke in this world. And even if someone's not a tzaddik, he could have the light in the Eden that comes down in Theta, like it says, Hayom La'asei Som, and in action, everyone could do. And everyone could connect. So you see, and the teichen of this first oasis, to understand what does it mean Purim al Shem HaPur, we have to first understand what it means Reishis Goyim Amalek. That Amalek is the source of all the Midas Rois. And we have to understand what it says by the Novis Chaya, that the Theta is Ponim V'Oche. The Theta is the back, and there's the Chitzenis of Theta. Ponim is, like it says, Chochmas Odom Toir Pono. And what does it mean, Kimari Odom? And what does it mean that Yidna on the higher level, Machshova? And Theta itself is also called an Odom. Theta is a person, just like a person has 248 limbs. Theta has 248 positive mitzvahs and 365 sinews. And Chochmas Odom is the Theta because the Theta is from a very high level. And this thing comes to us from Er Panecha to come down to our Theta, like Shleimi wrote 3,000 mashal. And this is the idea of Alichus Elam Lei, that it comes down in this world, a high level of Eden, that normally no eye on Eden could touch it, only B'Ril Mashiach will come. Everyone could have it through mitzvahs. Says the Maimer further, Siv Beis. Says the Alter Rebbe further. The Alter Rebbe explained in the first verse that Theta is from a very high level. It's from the level of Eden, and it comes down to this world through these 3,000 Misholim, says the Alter Rebbe. But in order to get this Theta down here, you cannot receive it only someone who works hard by davening. Which davening compared to Theta is called Ohr. That's why it says Ksuva Ponim ve'Ohr, that the Theta is written front and back, and you can't reach the front without the back. Without the Horvin and davening to be bottled to the Rebishter, you cannot receive this higher level of Chochmah, which is hidden in the Theta. In the Alter Rebbe's words, if you will not be missated by davening and have this tremendous yearning to unite to Hashem through davening, you cannot receive the very high level of Theta, which is the Shashuyim of the Rebishter. You have to first connect with davening. In the words of the Alter Rebbe, if you don't want to enjoy something, you will not enjoy it. You have to first have a tshuka, desire to understand it, and then you will start enjoying it. Says the Alter Rebbe, why is tefillah called the back end? Because what's tefillah? Tefillah is to have bittul to the Rebishter. Till you don't feel yourself. Because if you feel yourself that you are serving Liman Shemi Yichbad Hashem, because of me, God should be honored, that's considered the Erev Rav, that they think about themselves. Davening is that you have total bittul for the Rebishter. When you have the bittul through davening, which is the Ocher, you can get the ponim from Theta. And interesting, the Alter Rebbe notes, this is what happened to Kol Yisrael in the time of Purim and Achashverosh. They had total bittul because they were going to be killed. And they had true Mesiris Nefesh. That's why it says Kimu v'Kibul. They became like one, like Vayich and Yisrael. They were all connected with Mesiris Nefesh and total bittul to the Eibishter. So then they were able to be Mekayim what they already received. By Matan Theta, they brought it down. This is what it says, you make a bracha before a mitzvah. Asher kiddushan or b'mitzvah kiddushan, you first have to be holy through and bittul through davening. And that's why it's called Ocher, like it says, Apostle can give me that the Eibishter remembers. Lech dech acharei, the Jews followed Hashem in the desert. Without a 401k plan, they just ran into the desert to be bittul for the Rebishter. That bittul allowed them to receive the Theta. And the idea of davening is to the Rebishter. Like it says in the Pshma, v'ohavta, you should love. It also means v'ohavta from the word ova, to desire Hashem. And the desire, we know there's two energies, which is Rotz and desire and Einig pleasure. Rotzen is the hinder part from pleasure, and you get to the pleasure, which is Shashuyim of the Rebishter. To understand a little more, the Alter Rebbe brings from the Kabbalah about the 18 brachas of Shemona Esrei. It's brought down in Zeya and also in Gemara. The 18 brachas are regarding the Chai Chuliy Shebeshem, the 18 bones, the 18 circles in the spine, and they're all connected with the spine that goes into those chulias. He comes starting from the back of the head, like the Gemara says in Chulin, and it connects with the brain from the back part, and it connects them like it says in all medicine books. And we know that in the brain there's 3 cavities filled with 3 brains: the brain of the right brain and the left brain, and the back brain is Me'ach Hadas. Me'ach Hadas is in the back; they stand like a segel, and these 2 lines that from there is connected to the spine comes from the Me'ach Hadas. So the Das connects the 18 chulias of the Shedra. This is what it says in the Zeir and the Pardes. The Das comes down from the Moichin in Tiferes, which is called Gufa, and they come down in the 18 chulias in the Shedra. This is the Mides. This is what it is explaining. What is Das? To understand that what does the Kabbalah want by comparing davening to the spine and the 18 chulias. What's Das? You have Chochmah, Bina, you understand something. Then Das, you understand the greatness. And you connect with it to have a love and a fear for it and a feeling for it. They're called Droyin, the 2 hands. Through this, you arouse from heaven a great light in Atzilus, in Chesed and Gvura. Through the level of Das, you bring it down all the levels in Atzilus. Why is davening called Ocher? Because the level of Das is considered the Chitzenius compared to Chochmo Bina, which are in the face. So, you have the Theta that's connected with Chochmo Bina. Then you have the Das that creates the excitement and the connection to want to connect to Chochmo Bina. So Chochma alone is called Chochma Sodom Toir Panov, but in order to get it, you have to have the bittul. Just like the Yidden by the time of Purim. Because they were bottled a whole year with Mesiras Nefesh, they were able to receive the highest heights of Torah, to be Kimu Mashaki Bukfar. The same is true by every day when he davens. When he davens, he gets bottled to the Eibishter. Like it says, like it says, he brings a pasuk. In order to serve Hashem, you need to first start with the desire to connect and a total bittul to the Eibishter. Like the Gemara says in Yavamis, if someone says, I only have Torah, even Torah he doesn't have, because he doesn't connect at his high level, because he doesn't have the bittul, because he only learns Torah because that's what he likes to do. Like it says, the Gemara says, if someone has Theta and doesn't have Yiras Shamayim, it's like someone, they gave him over the house, the keys to the inside of the house, not to the front door. He can't go in. He learns Theta, he has Chochmah. But he doesn't have the way to enter that Chochmah, because you need to have the Tefillah before. Because the main thing is what by davening. Start with the 2 Birchas Krishma, speaking about the greatness of the Eibishter's angel. And the amazing amount of angels. Because of Gvura, and so there's a lot of angels. Like it says, Hashem, you say the name of Adna with the Eibishter's Odod, to create all these different servants and angels. And he divides it with Gvura in many different levels. That's why there's all the millions and trillions of angels. And the Eibishter is Ato Gibreleilom, you make this all. You are Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, you make all these different vessels. So when you come to this understanding of all the myriads of angels, you have a glimpse of understanding of how great the Master who created them all is. And then you have by Krishma V'Ahavta a tremendous desire to connect to this Eibishter. That's davening. That's the makeup of davening, to think about the greatness of the Eibishter and to want to connect. There's a beautiful sikha of the Frierdiker Rebbe, Likkutei Purim, how someone comes, he doesn't know who the king is, but he sees these ministers bowing down, and all the ministers and all these great people are bowing down. When he sees the king, he faints. It creates a tremendous buildup and desire. This is what it says in Sefer Yetzirah, the Kabbalah book that Avraham Avinu wrote. It says that Imrotz libcho shuv le'echod. What is echod? Echod is this desire connected to the Eibishter. You have to have shuv. You have a tremendous desire. But when you have this tremendous desire, you go shuv, you have total bittul b'mitzias. Because when you love something. You love. That's still you. I love and I desire. It's about you. But when you fear and you honor, that's total bittul to the Eibishter. And then from shuv you go back to rotzu, like it says, "V'achayis rotzu v'shuv." It's the balancing act of life, which is rotzu and shuv. And this is what gets the malochim ticking. As it says in the pasuk in Yeshaya, "B'shtayim me'efed." You need both. You can't just have love. You need love and fear, and that's the constant circle of life. Like when a bird flies, it can't fly with one wing. It goes up and down and up and down, and that's how it flies. Or when someone swims, he also has to move his hand up and down, and without it, the bird can't fly. You need both. And that's how you grow. You have a desire to the Eibishter, then you have a bittul, then you have a desire again. This is what the pasuk says, "B'shtayim me'efed." You need the two wings, which is Ava ve'yideh, and that's how you grow higher and higher. And this term of rotzu v'shuv is known and is called as moti v'lei moti when it comes from the Gilui, from the Eibishter comes and goes. So when it comes from a Yid's avodah lamata towards the Eibishter, it's rotzu v'shuv. But when it comes from the Eibishter down to the Yid, it's moti v'lei moti. First by Yid, there's first rotzu to the Eibishter, then shuv. But by the Eibishter, it's different from the first. There's moti, there's an air, then the air goes back to its source. But it's, and like it's explained elsewhere. When you have these wings of love and desire to the Eibishter and bittul to the Eibishter, of kriyishma, then you can daven Shemona Esrei to bring down these lofty levels. Like it's explained in this mashal that without moving the wings you cannot fly. The malachim fly to the Eibishter, then they could have Kodesh Hashem voice, that this high level of Kodesh Hashem to come down in voice like the 18 rings of the spine, which are called 18 different kelim, to come down to this world. When could they get this light from Kodesh to come down to its voice and heal the sick and give wisdom to a person without the Cohen? Meaning giving understanding to a human being, godliness, even though someone doesn't fully understand, God gives them the understanding. So you have these 18 vessels. They're like 18 blessings to bring down this light. This is what we said before, that the Magilla is ponim v'ocher. The Magilla has the ponim, has the chokhmah of the Eibishter, and it comes down to Yidden, but you need before the Akdome v'ocher, which is davening, to bring the Gilui Vein Sof that comes down through the Chut HaSheder, through the spine. But you have to first have davening, and then you have all the blessings coming down to this world. Right? It's Tzemach Tzedek, a summary. Chapter 2, that you cannot come to the level of the Purim of the Eibishter only after you work very hard in davening, which is called Ocher and Likkutei Acharai. Because davening is like the spine, like it's explained many places. 18 Chuliyos of the Shedra, and they come from Me'ach Hadas, which is the Chitzenius, but Theta is the Pnimius. Just like the Gemara says, that you cannot go into the inner chambers without the outer chambers, which is davening and bittul of the Eibishter, thinking about the greatness of the Eibishter, and having a tremendous love and awe of the Eibishter, like the Malachim have the Korozel Zevi Yomar Kodesh. They bring down this great light through their bittul. That's why the Theta is written Ponim V'Ocher, that in order to come to the higher level of Ponim, you need to have a tremendous desire that you acquire by davening.